Jamal, what has it been like for you to be here as one of the BYU legends among so many other quote-unquote BYU legends and be cruising with the Cougs?
It's been a fun time, and specifically, seeing other, legends from different eras, right? I've seen them on TV, I've seen them in passing, but to really kind of sit down and talk with them has been awesome, just to get to know them a little bit more, and just have that experience. It's been great.
Are you the best running back on the ship?
I am the best running back on the – yes, I am the best running back by far. By far.
I agree.
Are you the only running back on the ship? Don't answer that question.
That isn't a current athlete.
I think it's a handful, but still, I am the best.
Yes,
right?
Yes. No question. If somebody wanted you to high step in some capacity tonight, could you still do that?
With the cruise ship kind of, awkwardly moving, yes, I think I still could high step, but left to right laterally, I may kind of get a little off balance. But, yes, I can, yeah.
Let's talk about ball security. When I watched you play at BYU, you didn't really fumble, but you held the ball way out here. Did it drive your coaches nuts, or was it okay because you ended up scoring anyway?
That's the improper way to hold the ball. and I told my son this, as he was coming up, he was younger. I was saying, Dad was good, but don't hold the ball that way. So, I used to drive Lavelle and Lance Reynolds crazy holding the ball like that. But he said, okay, if you don't fumble the ball, you're okay.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I didn't fumble much. So I think it was good.
The legend, Jamal Willis, best running back on the boat.
On this boat.
Indeed.
And in Cabo and in Ensenada. They have
Absolutely.
no good running backs there, I promise you.
All of that true and happening on BYU Sports Nation. From your vantage point, when you look at what BYU football is doing and has become as they have transitioned from independence now into what will be year 3 of Big 12 competition, what have you enjoyed the most watching that evolution?
Well, for me, it's just how quickly they adapted. And obviously they exceeded expectations in everyone's minds, I'm sure. But just to see them to compete at a high level. And, the culture's here. In BYU football, we know how to win, right? And I think the Big 12 has been the best thing for us because I feel like we've had to up the level of play every week. It's not just you play a couple good teams and then you step it down. No, you have to play great every week. And I think it shows now more the experience in the big games. I think we've really been able to just really match up with the skill level and the coaching level and how we play on the field. So I think it's been great.
The 1994 team is one of the most underrated teams. You guys win, 10 games? You beat Notre Dame. You beat Oklahoma convincingly in the Copper Bowl. Does the 94 team deserve a little more love?
I would say yes. It's always funny because I think Lavelle, he was kind of going out, he was looking at retiring and he was just loading up the schedule. It was like, oh, wow, these are a lot of big games. But I felt like we were really just playing at a high level. And honestly, we beat Notre Dame and we were able to beat some other teams and really beat them handedly, And I think that year was a turning point, especially because who we had on the lineup.
And it was unique because a couple of things. One, John Walsh leaves, so you have to find a JUCO quarterback to replace him. And it's Steve Sarkisian, and that begins that run. But also you had a freshman fullback that turned out to be okay as well, despite his mustache.
Despite the mustache.
Yeah.
That would be one Kalani Sitake.
It's funny. Me and Kalani joke about this because the Notre Dame game, he actually, when I jumped over the pile, he was the guy underneath blocking and putting it away. So we we joked about that yesterday on the boat. He was a guy underneath, and I was the guy over the top getting all the handshakes and high fives, and he did the work for me.
Speaking of Kalani, how have you seen him evolve as a coach as he approaches almost a decade as the man in charge?
It's always funny to see past players and to remember what they used to be. And just to see Kalani and how he's kind of grown into the position as head coach, as leader, and how he has just accepted that and how the players have been able to just look at him as the leader. It's great to just see Kalani. I mean, and it takes time. He's been an assistant coach for a long time, and that's the difference between an assistant coach and a head coach. But he's always had the qualities. He bleeds BYU blue, and I think he's just the perfect coach for the job. I think he's done a great job, and the players love him.
11-2 was unbelievable last year. Like week to week, winning at the end. Obviously, a nice Alamo Bowl victory over Colorado. What's the next step for this group? What are you seeing that's there to accomplish?
For me, and I tell people this, we need to show consistency of winning. And I think that's been the one thing that we've shown signs that we could be that team, and then we lose to a team that's a lot lesser. And I think now it's just we have to match, if not exceed, what we've done. I mean, that's the difference between a good team and a great team in all levels. It's just showing the consistency of being able to win and keep winning and win the big games. And I think that's where we need to get to. And if that's winning a championship, so be it. That's what we want to win, right? We want to go to a national championship. We want to do that. We want to win the conference. But I think the consistency, keeping the consistency year after year of just winning at the high level, that's what we need.
Jamal Willis is on BYU Sports Nation. I know you've answered several questions about similar topics in the past, but just because we're here and it's been a theme of this cruise, and that is BYU and faith and family and spirituality. You took a chance on BYU, and how has that impacted your life? If you can summarize that answer in 60 seconds or less.
No, when I chose BYU, I wasn't a member of the church, and it was very hard first year being here, so different, but it really just revamped and changed my life. I was able to meet my wife first and foremost. I have to say that she was a gymnast, and I was able to meet her, and with Lavelle and his basically being a father figure for me, and to be able to just accept the community, accept the culture, but then again, being able to thrive. That's what helped me out, to be able to thrive. And I look at myself right now and how much that it's really impacted my life. And I always tell people this, that my first day in one of the religion classes when I was a member, I walked in and this lady stood up and said, "Jamal, come here, come here." And I looked over, it was Patty Edwards. And she didn't need a degree, she graduated. And she's like, "Come here," and I was so embarrassed, and I went up and sat by Patty, and she put her arm around me and said, "I'm gonna be here for the whole semester." so I think, and for me, it's funny, and it was very funny, but I think that was, they cared about me, right? And that was showing genuine care. Patty Edwards, and I think she had a lot to play in my first year feeling a part of the deal, and I think, Lavelle, I look at him as he's a coach, right? And he's a great coach, but he's a father figure, and really helped me while I was here.
So was Patty there for just you in that class? Were there other football players she was accounting their attendance? So that's pretty nice / weird, which is awesome.
Yeah, I was the only one. And
she was watching out for you.
Yeah, she was watching out for me, and I was one of a really big recruit as a running back, choosing BYU because I could have went to Nebraska and all these other big schools, and Patty was there just for me to make sure that I felt comfortable, I felt accepted, and they were probably worried that I may say I'm out of here after the class, because it was a Book of Mormon class too. Yeah. And so she sat there in the front and she waited for me every time, so I couldn't miss. So I had to be there.
That's amazing that she would show up every class. That's amazing.
Let's talk about the group of running backs at BYU this year, and there are 2 current running backs on the boat right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we got Sione Moa and we got Pokai Haunga. Yep. Of course, LJ Martin is not with us, but he too with high expectations. How do you feel about the running backs room right now at BYU, and what do you see for them in 2025?
I see a balance of really good running backs that can do really good things that are different. And I think in this league, when you play in the Big 12, you really have to interchange them. I mean, honestly, because you're going to get nicked up. And I think with the three running backs that they have there, I think they're very talented. And I love just the mix that they have and how they run offensively, how they call plays, and just to be able to mix it up, because some games you're not going to be able to pass much. You'll be able to run. But I think the running game is just going to continue to get better. And I've seen it evolve into something bigger. And it's not just one back. We're getting 3, 4 really good solid backs. So I think we're going to be good.
You set the all-time rushing record of BYU. That's since been passed several times, which is the goal in any program. What's it like to see the next guy and then the next guy and then the next guy? Because at some point, someone's going to break the record that's standing.
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for running backs to kind of break the record. I think I'm 4th maybe now.
Which is crazy to me, that 3 dudes passed you.
Yeah, and I've been out for so long, and I always say this, and I'm kind of, we all kind of think that, hey, we were pretty good, you know. And I always say, remember, I was in the days of passing.
You had to play with Ty and John Walsh.
Yes, and I was fortunate to get 5 carries a game, so I knew when I got the ball, I would say, okay, I got to break an 80-yarder because I'm not going to see it again, So I always felt like I was one of the maybe 1 or 2 that really kind of established the running game and got BYU to really kind of dig and say, hey, let's start running the ball a little bit. We've been passing for so long, and I think it seemed like after that, running backs start coming. You know, we start running the ball a little bit more with Ronnie Jenkins, Luke Staley, and it just kept going and going. So I feel like I was one of the pioneers.
Yes,
you know,
sir.
with starting a running game.
And not just 2nd and 10 HB draw.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
just
yeah.
Fine, get us 4, manageable 3rd and 6.
Always tell people I had only 2 plays. Crack go at 8, crack go at 9. There were sweeps, sweep right, sweep left, and teams prepared for it, and I just had
They
to be
couldn't stop it.
Yeah, I had to be really kind of, you know, just creative with how I did that, ran the ball.
I
So.
love it.
You would have had another 1,000 yards if you played now in
Exactly
the
right.
traditional offense, right?
Exactly
A-Rod
right.
would have hooked you up.
Listen, we talk about like how economy changes. We should factor that in for sports
Running back
statistics
yardage,
as well.
how many carries you would have had.
Inflation for those statistics.
Inflation.
So honestly, I still should be number 1 probably.
Yes.
I mean, if you were to
we
look
just
at it, and honestly, they didn't count bowl games back then.
Come on, Jamal.
I mean,
yes.
you know,
Sorry, Tyler.
We're here for it.
Sorry, Harvey. Yep.
Once again, Jamal Willis,
The all-time leading
all-time
rusher in BYU football history.
with statistics inflation in play.
Yep.
Jamal, we're so glad you chose BYU way back when.
Congrats on
Grateful
being the
to be
new
with you.
record holder.
Thank you. I deserve it.
Thanks, Jamal.
Thank you.